Quý đạo hữu kiểm tra điện thoại di động mình đã tắt chuông chưa ạ? Không biết có quý đạo hữu nào có đăng ký đặt câu hỏi không ạ? Yes. Anh Hạnh Trúc đây có muốn đặt câu hỏi không? An Lê có muốn đặt câu hỏi không? Em có thể bắt đầu.
Vâng, dạ. Em vẫn nói tiếng Việt trước ạ? Hay là...
em nói tiếng Việt trước rồi nói tiếng Anh cũng được. Hoặc là em có thể nói tiếng Anh tùy em.
Vâng.
Em
Dạ, rất là cảm ơn các vị thầy đã đến Hà Nội. Cho chúng con có cái dịp được đào sâu thêm cái hiểu. Thì con có một cái câu hỏi tức là cũng không nó hơi mang tính chất kỹ thuật ạ, thì cũng xin lỗi trước. Thì con thì hay có cái tích lũy là tìm hiểu các vấn đề kỹ thuật. Thì khi mà học về tác ý thì con có được biết là có được nghe nói là nó có cái chức năng chính là coordinate, tức là phối hợp các phép đồng sinh. Tuy nhiên cũng có một đôi khi thì nó có được giảng là có cái chức năng là win to act, tức là có cái ý chí để làm một cái việc gì đó. Thế thì con muốn là hỏi đây là hai cái chức năng khác nhau hay nó là cùng là một chức năng không thôi ạ? Vâng, sau đây thì con sẽ nói sang tiếng Anh. So, thank you very much for coming to Hanoi so that we have chance to deepen our understanding. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry that my question is somehow technical, but I regarding the Chetana, we all know that it has the functions of coordinate the Chetasika that arise together with Chetana. But sometimes I also heard that when it becomes strong enough, it has the function of called will to act or will to perform. So one is coordination and another is will to act. So my question is, so those are two different aspects or two different functions, or it's just the same function? I would like to hear from our teachers on this point. Thank you.
It's good to see you, Anli, and meet your son. And we have some other newcomers here as well. So we will try to explain the Pali terms we use because it may be a little bit confusing for them. So everyone has heard about karma. And usually in daily life, people think when there's a bad storm and floods and a typhoon that it's like the result of karma, bad karma, or something like this. But this is just a conventional way of thinking. We begin to learn that actually karma arises at every moment. And this is Chaitana Chaitasika, which Anli is talking about. So at every moment in life, there is karma, Chaitana. And as he said, at every moment it coordinates, it manages the other mental factors that arise with it and the chitta to perform their job. Yesterday we talked a lot about seeing. At a moment of seeing, it's not I who sees, not anyone who sees. Seeing right now, it arises by different conditions. It sees what is visible and it falls away. But the seeing consciousness cannot arise alone. It has to have other mental factors arising together with it, 7 other mental factors arising together with it in order to see what is visible. For example, there has to be contact with the object. There has to be focus on the object. There has to be this mental factor which Anli is talking about, the Chaitana, which coordinates all these different mental factors and the chitta together, a little bit like the head boy or head girl in a school manages the other students to perform their tasks. So it's like the head student coordinating the other students to each perform their particular role, seeing to see what is visible, the contact to contact the object, and so on. And this particular mental factor arises at every moment in life. Yesterday afternoon, a friend asked a question about making decisions and how it seems when there is making a decision to do this or that, it seems I make the decision. But in fact, no I to do anything, because we learnt all dharmas are anatta, no one there. But Chaitana coordinates the other Chaitasikas, and when there is the performing of a deed, performing of speech, it not only coordinates, but it wills the speech, it wills the action to take place. So what we think of as I making a decision, actually Chaitana plays a very important role. So at this moment, because of Chaitana, there is the intention, the will to have a drink at this moment, not I, just a different Chaitasikas performing their functions. So when the moments of consciousness like seeing and hearing arise, these moments of consciousness are the result of karma. No will to do, just the Chaitana just coordinates the other factors. But when wholesome and unwholesome moments of consciousness arise, at moments of kindness, moments of generosity, or moments of anger or attachment, then Chaitana has this second function of willing in a wholesome or unwholesome way. And if that willing is strong enough that it leads to particular deed, for example, now there is a little bit of attachment when seeing the visible object, thinking about the beautiful flowers, but no intention to take them or do something bad. If the attachment is strong enough that it leads to some bad action like stealing, then it is the deed that can bring a result later. But Chaitana at those moments, whether it's just a little attachment or a lot of attachment, it wills in an unwholesome way at those times. So this is quite a deep question for newcomers. So let me ask one of them. Let me ask Haivan, for example, as representing the newcomers. Can you follow what we are saying, Haivan?
Em xin chào các anh chị ạ. Just understand a little bit.
Alo, alo, ok.
Vâng, em xin phép được nói bằng tiếng Việt trước ạ. Tại vì là cũng là một thành viên mới tham gia vào hôm nay, cho nên là những cái thuật ngữ các thứ là em cũng chưa hiểu rõ lắm. Thì em cũng có nghe qua cái phần dịch của chị Hải. Vâng. Thì cũng chỉ là một người mới cho nên là cũng chưa hiểu lắm đâu ạ. Nên là cũng mong các anh chị tạo điều kiện cho em có cơ hội hiểu một cách nó dễ dàng hơn ạ. Cũng hơi run một chút anh chị ạ. Vâng. Vâng.
Không, bạn nói tiếng Anh tốt mà. Em nói đi, em nói.
So, could you please tell me something simple about Buddha and Dhamma? Yes. Dhamma. Thank you. Yes.
In the car when we were traveling here, it was the first time that Haivan had any Dhamma discussion. And one topic we talked about, maybe it's helpful for other people, was happiness. Because Haivan asked a question about how can there be more happiness in life. I think this is something that everyone thinks about in every country. Everyone would like to be happy. Everyone would like to have more pleasant feeling. Everyone would like their family to be happy. No one wants to be sad. But we talked about how at each moment in life there are different conditions, different causes for the way life is. We're used to thinking, I can make decisions, I can decide whether to have attachment or not. But actually, each reality arises by conditions, and it's not in my control or anyone else's control. So what we think of in daily life as happiness is usually pleasant feeling. But pleasant feeling doesn't last. Nothing lasts at all. The Buddha taught that whatever arises is gone instantly. So there's pleasant feeling when we look at the lake or enjoy the sunset or taste delicious food. But it's just for a moment and then gone. And usually there is clinging, attachment to what is pleasant. We enjoy it so much, we would like more pleasant tastes, more pleasant visible objects, more pleasant sounds. When the sound is unpleasant, no one chose to hear unpleasant sound. Instantly, unpleasant feeling, not happy feeling again. So whilst we keep looking for happy feeling that doesn't last, there will always be unhappy feeling following. When our family are healthy and well and everything is very comfortable, in Thai they say sabai sabai, lots of happy feeling. But when our family members are sick or pass away, who can stop unpleasant feeling? So the happy feeling we follow, we pursue, we try to have is so temporary. And the Buddha taught it is the attachment to what is so pleasant that brings all the unhappiness, the expectations, the disturbance, the sorrow in life. So the Buddha taught that this is the worldly idea of happiness. But the true happiness is only the happiness that comes about with understanding more about the truth of life, the happiness of letting go of clinging to what is seen and heard and thought about, the expectations of others. At work, if everyone is behaving nicely, we're happy, but if people at work behave badly, then we're sad. The problem is not the people at work, it's the expectations, the attachment to how things should be. So the pure happiness is the happiness that develops with understanding, the letting go of clinging and ignorance, and the acceptance of life as it is at this moment. Like now, who can control what is heard, pleasant sound or unpleasant? The acceptance of what is now means the living with it just as it is, not wishing it for it to be something different. Like now, if there's wishing or hoping for another experience, another taste, another sound, another visible object, there will be unhappiness again and again. So it's the opposite of the conventional idea of happiness, which is clinging to pleasant feeling, trying to have more and more pleasant feeling. And the happiness the Buddha taught is the opposite, the letting go of the clinging, living with life just as it is at this very moment. And for this, there has to be understanding of what life really is at this moment. So one Dharma is the one that Anne Lee was asking about, the Chaitana, but so many other realities. Like yesterday we talked about seeing now and what is seen now, hearing now, what is heard now. And the reason we talk about these different realities is to begin to consider whether there truly is an I that we are so used to finding so important. Is there really this I that can control life, that can make happy feeling arise all the time, that can stop painful feeling, that can just hear pleasant sounds? Or is this just in our imagination? We also talked in the car about how when we wake up in the morning and we realize we've been dreaming, we know it was just a crazy fantasy world of dreaming. But what about now, when thinking about the other people, thinking about the flowers, thinking about the noise that we heard? This is actually the dream world most of the time, most of the day. We live in a dream world, thinking about one long story after another. The floods in Hanoi, the lunch we ate yesterday, the last discussion, all gone, just different stories. And we forget about or have no understanding about the truth right now at this moment. Does that make some sense to you?
Yes, thank you so much. And also I have a question that's who am I, and to stay in our life with our children and our colleagues, how to control everything to be in a happier way and also to have a happier life.
Would you like to translate to Vietnamese?
Are you happy to know what are there at the body?
Sorry.
Are you happy to know what are there at the body?
Could you please
Are you happy to know what are there at the body,
Happy to know
in
what
the body, in the body.
Like here in the body, would you like to know what is in the body?
Yes, for sure. I actually, for when thinking about people and thinking about me, just human
So-
being and body and everything, very, I mean, in
At moment,
physical.
at moment of understanding what are there in the body, there is happiness.
Actually, for me, I think happiness and sadness is come every day.
Is it beneficial to know what are there in the body, because there's the body now.
Yeah.
Better not to have no understanding. So begin to understand what is there right now at the body, in the body. What is there in the body?
Actually, I just for physical, we know physical, but I don't know exactly what is it.
Thinking
Yes.
of understanding the outside, but not the inside, right? And what can be understood? That which is far away, or that which is so very close. So it's easy just to answer without considering what is meant by no understanding at all, and that is the understanding of what is taken for body, my body, everyone's body. But
Yes.
what are there in the body? Everyone now, what are there in the body? Not outside the body at all. Is that right? But it's not known. So who knows? Beginning to know. There's a person with highly understanding, realizing, experiencing directly what is there now in the body. So now there's the body, and what is there? It's not the other's understanding. It has to be one's own, careful considering whether it's true or not, because we haven't understood what is there as it is at all, justly, without understanding what is there right now or any time, not far away, just in the body. So begin to consider the body, the whole body, and what is there now in the body.
Just
This is the begin to understand the virtues, the great virtues of the one who enlightened to the truth of what is there, no matter what. So first of all, before taking any word to be remembered, but begin to understand what we are hearing, considering about right now, not far away, right? So what is there one by one in the body?
just our mindset.
Pardon?
When thinking about the body, just thinking mainly about the mindset and
Not you,
spirit.
not anyone.
Yes.
Just what is there, or what are there in the body. Many, many things, not just one. But there can be the understanding of just one reality at a time to really understand its nature as it is. This is the beginning of studying Dhamma, to realize the virtues of the Buddha. Otherwise, no one knows what is his understanding about. whatever is there, no matter when, anytime, any moment. Enlightenment, enlightened to what is there right now. So what is there in the body? Is the body? So what is there in the body?
I feel nothing.
Because,
Yes.
one of your questions was, who am I? So in order to answer the question, who am I, we have to consider what it is that is taken for I. Usually we take the body for my body, we take the friend for my friend, we take this for my husband, my teacher, and so on. But starting with the body, what is the body? Is the body really something, or what is there in the body? For example, at the moment of touching now, what is experience? Is it my arm, my body, or what is experience at the moment of touching?
Just when touching, for example, touching my arm, I know that this is my arm.
How do you know it's my arm?
It just to pick up some things and help us to write and everything, supporting our working and everything in our life.
If there was no thinking, no mindset as you put it, could there be any idea about my arm and I'm picking up something to write and so on? Like at this moment, if you close your eyes, where is my arm?
Em xin phép nói, let me tell talks in Vietnamese because it's a bit difficult for me to express in English. Khi mà nghĩ về thân thể mình á, thì qua những câu hỏi của hai bác, em cũng có thể là cảm thấy là khi mà mình nhắm mắt mình nghĩ thì mình nghĩ về thân thể mình rồi. Mình nghĩ cái tay nó là cái tay, nhưng nếu mình không nghĩ nó như thế thì cũng chỉ là một cái ý nghĩ của mình về nó. Và thực ra em cảm thấy là con người mình, cái còn lại nhất nó chính là cái suy nghĩ của mình á, cái tâm thức của mình.
She said that actually when I close my eyes, arms, it's only in my thinking. And all depends on the thinking. If it thinks of arms and there are arms, if it doesn't think of arms, there are no arms.
Exactly right. If there's no thinking about my arm, where is it? At a moment of touching, actually it's just hardness or warmth that is experienced. Just like here, hardness or warmth experienced. But so quickly, the idea, this is my arm that is warm, or my arm that's ready to pick up the microphone. But without thinking, where is the arm? So we live in a world of thinking about different ideas. So Ajahn's question is leading us to consider more about what is actually true. Is there really the body, we're used to thinking of it, the arm, we're used to thinking of it, or are there just different elements, different realities that we take for being my arm, my body, the other's arm? Because we're learning to understand more about the truth of our realities, to consider whether there really is an I to be found or not. If there is the idea of I, there's the idea of my body, there is the idea of other people and their bodies as existing. but what is true at this moment.
When thinking about bodies, just I think about an element. Chỉ khi mà nghĩ về cái vật, khi nghĩ về thân thể của mình ấy, thì nghĩ sâu hơn một chút. Bản thân em ạ, sau khi nói chuyện với cô thì bây giờ nếu mà nghĩ sâu hơn một chút thì sẽ cảm thấy là cơ thể mình cũng được hình thành từ các cái yếu tố, các cái vật thể đơn giản, và từ những cái yếu tố đấy, do con người mình sinh sống và có cái tập quán thì hình thành nên những cái ý nghĩ là cơ thể mình là như thế này. Nhưng thực chất ra sâu bên trong, sâu hơn nữa, ở những cái tầng sâu hơn nữa, thì em nghĩ rằng là bản thân mình thực ra chỉ là một cái còn lại trong mình chỉ là một cái tâm thức ạ. Về một cái tâm thức, về một cái cơ thể mình cũng chỉ là một cái vật thể mà thôi. Và cái tâm thức mới là cái thứ mà mình cần phải hiểu về chính cái tâm thức của mình đang cái suy nghĩ của mình đang hướng đến những cái suy nghĩ quen thuộc hay là như thế nào, mình nghĩ thế nào đúng là đúng, nghĩ thế nào là nên.
She said, when thinking more deeply on this topic, I think that actually the bodies are just made up from different elements and basic elements, and then by habits we got different ideas about bodies and this and that. But what is truly me is not the body, but is the mind, is the way of thinking. And we need to understand more about the mind and understand more about what is the right way of thinking or is the wrong way of thinking. So that is my understanding.
Dạ vâng.
Jan may like to continue with her question. So her question was, what is in the body? How will you answer this now?
Where is your arm?
Just only my mind. Yes.
No. What is the mind? Can it be in your mind? The arm? See? The truth is so very subtle. It's covered up years and years ago, before hearing the teachings of the Buddha and begin to understand his wisdom, so great. What is taken for something all the time from birth up to now, people and things, something is atta, right? This is atta, this is atta, everything is atta, the world of something all the time, from moment of birth to death. But in truth, what's the word of the enlightened one? All dhammas are anatta. And so we have to understand what is Dhamma, because he said all dhammas, many dhamma, each one is one dhamma, are anatta, no atta at all, not anything at all. And what you said is it's just the element of what it is. Hardness is the element which is hard. Is that right? So what is meant by dhatu or element, that which is there has its own characteristic, never be changed at all. Is that right? Hardness cannot be changed through sound, right? So sound is element or not? Is sound an element? So everything is just element because it has its own characteristic. Nobody can change at all. That's why we learn about how many elements are there, because each one is each element So many several things. That's why Buddha taught about the group of elements, what are in that group or the other group. So we learn to understand what is there, beginning to have clear understanding, not just take the word to be understood. No self, no me, they are Dhammas, no understanding, just follow the words. But where's the arm? You have the idea, my arms, right? But where is it now?
On my body.
The body. So the question is, what is there in the body or at the body? Or what is there? What are there? Many things are there, unknown. That's why all are taken for one body. My body, his body. But what is there in the body or at the body? For example, seeing right now, where is it?
At the body.
See, beginning to understand. Before seeing, is there seeing? Before seeing arise. Listen carefully to understand each different element or tattoo. That only the one who had enlightened to the truth of each moment, each reality, can teach about the truth, the ultimate truth of what is there as it is, never changed. So begin to understand just one word, Dhamma. What is real is Dhamma. It's conditioned to arise. Without right or proper conditions, it cannot arise at all. And then not just only one condition, many conditions for just one moment of one reality arise. See, that's why I begin to understand what's there as the body, and what about the mountain and the sun and the wind, the same, something. But the truth is that it has its own characteristic, as its own tattoo. Hardness, what is its element? Hardness, Patavi tattoo in Pali. Patavi tattoo in Pali. That's why we learn about the words Buddha taught in Pali, little by little, to begin to be accustomed to the word in Pali, that it can be in any language, but nobody can change its tattoo. We can use different words for Patvi tattoo as hardness and so on, different languages. But the nature of it is hardness. So now, another word for Dhamma, or Dhammas are tattoo, different tattoos. Is that right? But where are they?
Different elements.
Or is there now understanding what is meant by tattoo?
I'd like to ask Anli's son, because he's also new today, and he has, like his father, he speaks good English and he has an interest in science. So when we talk about different elements in the body, what do you understand by this?
First of all, to begin my conversation with you, I would like to express my gratitude and my most respectful greets to Achan and you, Sarah. To answer your question, I think the basic elements in our body are the quarks. According to science, those quarks made up electrons and protons, and those electrons and protons and neutrons made up atoms. Atoms made up bigger chunks of elements, which all created our body. May I express it in Vietnamese, please? Theo hiểu biết của em về khoa học thì cơ thể chúng ta được cấu tạo từ các hạt quarks và chúng em cũng muốn tự nói. Các hạt quarks tạo nên electron và proton, neutron. Ba hạt đấy lại tạo nên các nguyên tử tạo nên phân tử, và các phân tử tạo nên cơ thể chúng ta. Thì đó là góc nhìn từ khoa học của em. That's the end of my answer.
What does the term element indicate if we are talking about the things that make up the body? Is there anything, is there any consciousness or any other characteristic other than the physical element?
I think the element itself doesn't have consciousness, but in our brain, I think because science still haven't know much about our brain, so I think there's must be some elements that contributes to our consciousness and our thinking, to really think about this reality.
Can we use the term impersonal to describe element? An element is something impersonal. It just exists for itself.
Impersonal, I think, is not a good term for the elements, because they are elements that create our bodies, so it must be personal. And
Well, that's the question. Can it be impersonal, even though it forms what we call our body? So the quarks and protons that constitute the body, are they different from the quarks and protons that constitute a table, for example?
and from my understanding, they are the same, but they are contributed differently. So some of them are personal and some of them are impersonal.
Well, that's by definition, you're saying if they're in the body, they are personal, and if they're outside the body, they're impersonal. But by their nature, putting aside the location, can we say they are they're all impersonal in a sense, in that they are just what they are?
So I understand your question as by location. So I think without the location, I think we cannot have the we cannot have the understanding of what if an element is personal or impersonal.
And when it comes to, so far we've just talked about physical elements. Is it possible that what we take to be consciousness and feeling can also be considered as elements?
I think yes.
And so what's the and so what is common between all elements is what I am referring to as their impersonality. They are just each distinct elements having a particular function and occurring by reason of whatever conditions there are.
Yes, I think that the way that the elements are in order, the order that they are distributed in determines the way they functions. And yes.
And would it be correct to say that science doesn't know what is the cause of these elements.
I think nothing in the world has really understand the cause of these elements, and I would like to have your point of view in what caused all these elements to exist.
I don't think my point of view would be much use, but we can discuss what the Buddha said about the cause of things. So, at the present moment, can we say there are different kinds of consciousness? There's the consciousness that experiences by seeing or hearing, smelling, tasting or touching. And there is the consciousness that considers what has been experienced and which, as we were talking about, intention, which motivates acts of body or speech. So can we consider that these two kinds of consciousness are different kinds of, there are these two kinds of consciousness, the ones that just see, hear, smell, taste and touch, and the ones that think or speak in a certain way.
So may I ask, the latter consciousness, the latter kind of consciousness you said, is the experience of hearing, smelling, tasting?
That kind of consciousness is explained as being resultant consciousness, conditioned by deeds in the past. Because the object experienced, that's seen, heard, smelt, tasted or touched, can be pleasant or unpleasant by conditions. So even in this room, there is the experience through the body sense of the air, the temperature of the air. For some it's a pleasant experience, and for others it's an unpleasant, it's too warm or too cold. And for others it's just comfortable. So that is by virtue of the past actions. Whereas when there is acting in body or speech, this is not resultant, because this is possibly creating new cause for future results, because those moments are accompanied by wholesome or unwholesome mental states, or they are either wholesome or unwholesome mental states. Whereas the moments of actual seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are not. They are just purely resultant. So we can think of these two broad categories of consciousness. But either way, they are just elements arising by conditions.
So the second kind, the thinking now, thinking about what's seen, thinking about what's heard, thinking about lunch, thinking about my family. These kinds of thinking are conditioned by previous habits and memory. Memory is another element. So different from the karma that conditioned the seeing or the hearing now. So what we learn is that for each kind of element, the hardness here or the hardness here, the seeing now, the thinking now, we have to consider each element one by one and consider the different causes, the different conditions. So the Buddha taught in detail about the causes and conditions for every element in life, mental and physical, and we consider more about the different elements and the different causes to really understand there is no personal, no I, no someone, no thing like flowers, just different, understanding more about are the elements that can be understood, directly understood, not the elements that
we learn about in the textbook make up the outer atmosphere, but now at the moment of touching, what is the element experienced? At the moment of seeing now, what is the element at that moment of seeing, and what is the element that is seen? So it's not just for theory, but actually for understanding. So I think it's interesting for those who've come from a background like yours, because we can begin to consider more about what different elements are and how they are conditioned, mental and physical.
Yes, so I want to ask you a question. You have said that the Buddha taught us all about those elements. So may I ask, what did he teach us, and what is the starting element of those? Because I think there must be a start of these elements to be thrive and to become enlarged as today.
Well, I think what he taught about the elements is they are to be understood as they are, because they are what is taken for life at this moment. What we take for life at this moment is in fact just different elements, mental and physical. So that's the whole point of his teaching. As regards the start, that is not the present moment. The past cannot be directly known. The past it can be known about. So the story of the past can be known, but only what is presently occurring can be directly known. And this is the difference between understanding and knowledge. So the understanding taught by the Buddha is the direct experiencing of whatever appears at the present moment. And when that understanding is developed, it comes to be seen that what we take for the present moment are just different elements, impersonal elements, because they happen by conditions, not by our control. So what you're thinking now depends on your personal accumulations, experience, background, and so forth. The person next to you will be thinking something quite different by conditions, by accumulated tendencies. So they are elements also, according to the Buddha's teaching. But grasping that at a conceptual level is one thing, but directly experiencing it, of course, is another thing altogether. But one has to have heard the Buddha's description of the way things are in order to start considering whether it is the truth or not. And it takes time.
Even at the first moment of life, in this life, just elements, the birth consciousness at the moment of conception is just an element conditioned by past karma, the different mental factors that arise together with that birth consciousness are elements. The groups of rupas, physical phenomena that arise at that first moment, masculinity, femininity, heart-based, body sense, they're just different elements. No one is born at all, just different elements arising by different conditions. So actually we study in a lot of detail because the teachings are very deep and the idea of something and someone is very deep-rooted. But in truth, there are only elements. Just to give another new member an opportunity, Ganga's nephew
came once before about 6 or 8 years ago, and when we met him before, he was just a young boy of 12, and he was very brave. He came with his brother the day after his grandmother had died, had passed away, and so we talked a lot about death at that time. I think I remember better than he does about it. We mentioned this yesterday, 3 kinds of death. We talk about a conventional death, but yesterday, just in passing, and we discussed this a little bit in our car journey today, in terms of the absolute sense and in terms of elements, there's actually death at each moment now, death of each element that has arisen. So nothing lasts for an instant. Each element dies away immediately. So how can it be taken for a body or a person in truth? Because there are just different elements arising and falling away. And as Ajahn mentioned yesterday, when there is understanding that there are just different elements making up what we call life, arising and falling away, death, now, the seeing now is dead, the hearing now is dead, whatever arises is dead, then we appreciate that even at the end of life, there are just more elements passing away to be followed by new elements in new life. So nothing to be afraid of, because there are just different elements passing away now. So we think, like at that time, 6 or 8 years ago, we think with sadness about the grandmother that's passed away and the story of her life and the funeral arrangements. But actually, it's just like now. There is death now, death of each reality. And this is the world, the breaking world, the crumbling world. So the world is just now. What is seen now is the world. What is heard now is the world. Just different elements arising and passing away. But because of memory and thinking, we take the elements for being my husband, my grandmother, the flowers on the table. But actually, there are just different elements. And when our sister passed away recently, first, of course, we all feel sad, but then when there's understanding, there is joy at moments of understanding that there are just these elements. Whatever arises has to pass away, and life continues on. And this is true happiness, true joy with understanding. Is there anything you would like to ask about or hear about? Yeah. Very glad that you can come to join us again. Is it interesting to hear a little more?
First of all, I want to show my gratitude for. First of all, I want to show my gratitude for being welcome to this, let's say, community. And though all the information related to the bodies, the formation of one identity or intriguing, I believe I don't have any other interest or curiosity. Thank you.
So this is for An Lee's son. This is also the point. Why do some people listen and not others? It depends if there is interest. For some people, interest to go shopping, for some interest to learn more about the truth, for some to study more about quarks and protons. So the interest, the habit, the tendency accumulates. So this is the reason, the cause why thinking for some people is about food, for others about flowers, for some about happiness. It all depends on the habit and the interest. Thank you.
Cảm ơn. Nói lên là cảm ơn.
Why? Why do I have to? Chuyển cho
Con còn nói gì nữa không? Không thì cảm ơn.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. I think Ajahn would like to talk to you a little more.
My name is Lê Duy Bảo in Vietnamese. My name is Lê Duy Bảo. Bảo, but you can call me Bao or yeah. And there's some more questions I would like to ask. So earlier, I think you talk about expectation, and suddenly I have a thought that if I expect somebody to to perform good, if I expect somebody to help me when I'm in need, then if they really do that, then I would be happy, and also he or she can also be happy too. But if my expectation is not met by he or she, then I would be sad, but he or she wouldn't feel anything, I guess. So I think expectations would lead to happy or unhappy situation for me, and so there are when I keep expecting in life, there are some situations that I'm happy and some that I'm unhappy. It is inevitable. So should I keep just expecting? Should people be expecting anything to be like people expecting to have the things that they already have today and forever not lose it? But I think that expectation would fall off one day, and they would be unhappy about it. So I think all expectation would just lead to suffering, negative emotions. So should we just cut all that off?
Is there a difference between expecting and wanting?
I think expecting is relate to everything in the world. You can expecting somebody to do this, but wanting, I think it's more of a personal problem. Wanting is more of for us, and expecting can be for me or for the world. Like you expect the world to help Rainer. That is kind of expecting, but you don't want. It's not wanting.
I think expecting is a kind of wishing to have things a certain way.
Yeah.
And of course, if we think of it in those terms, then it becomes obvious that it's not going to be beneficial to oneself or the other person. So we talked earlier about the different kinds of consciousness. We said that seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are resultant, and then the way that one acts in response to those things is not resultant but cause, because it will be either with wholesome or unwholesome mind state. And deeds that are conditioned by wholesome or unwholesome mind states bring result accordingly to oneself because of the principle. So if the accompanying mind state is wholesome, then the result will be a pleasant experience. If the accompanying mind state of a deed is unwholesome, it will be an unpleasant. It will condition in sometime in the future unpleasant experience.
Hi, so I want to ask you that you don't use the word individuals or person. Instead, you use the word company, I guess. So from your speech, I understand company as a person. Is that right?
I didn't catch.
Because you said that the wholesome is accompanied by the wholesome or unwholesome mind state. Yeah, so he accompanied.
So, sorry, I don't
So
have good
we can use the word person or individual because there are different streams of consciousness, right? So each stream of consciousness, the moments of consciousness in a stream are accompanied by different mental factors. And when those mental factors accompany acts of body or speech, they will be wholesome or unwholesome.
And the question about the expectations, it comes back to Hai Van's question at the beginning about happiness. There are expectations. When things go the way we like, there's pleasant feeling, and when they don't go the way we like, there's sadness. And the Buddha taught that the cause of becoming, the cause of all that is unsatisfactory in life is clinging, attachment. Expectation is attachment, is clinging to having life work out in a particular way. Like now, is there expectation of enjoying a delicious lunch? If the lunch is so-so, then there's disappointment instantly. So the problem is not the lunch. The problem is not how the others behave, but the clinging, the expectation, the wishing it to be a certain way. This is the opposite of understanding with detachment, non-clinging. So you asked how all these elements start. So without clinging, if clinging has been eradicated, no more life, no more elements arising. So the cause of elements arising, life after life after life, the deep cause is the clinging, the wishing. So in truth, the Buddha taught that actually all the elements that arise and fall away are unsatisfactory. In Pali we say dukkha. All elements that are conditioned are dukkha because they're impermanent and fall away instantly. So how can that which is so brief and impermanent be any kind of refuge or be satisfactory in any way? So there's clinging all day long to that which is impermanent and already gone. So this is the cause of dukkha, on and on and on.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions. May I give this mic to anybody who wants to ask her another?
As we just, thank you very much. We just have a few minutes left before lunch, so maybe Ajahn would like to.
What we are talking about?
I think the question should be what were we talking about? Because in the past I was just talking to the two people in the left of you about expectations and elements.
Yeah,
I guess
about many things. not understanding the ultimate truth of each one at all. Is that right? Just the word about one's own thought or the way you learned. But what about understanding the truth of what is there now? As Buddha had enlightened. Otherwise, no one can think about it. Just talk about it in different subjects, this and that, all day, just to find out the way to be successful or what is there. But what about now? What about life? Not the word, not the story of the events and happenings from moment to moment, but what is the truth of this moment? If it's not known, no one knows who's the Buddha. So, without hearing, considering each word of the truth right now, no one can understand what is meant by enlightenment and the Buddha. Great virtues, including understanding. Without understanding, can it be very, very great virtues? No understanding of the truth of what is there. Each moment, just the idea about something and someone as atta. Is that right?
Yes.
What have you talked is about atta, right?
Can you repeat it? What we talk about is...
I see.
Just very briefly, 2 words for the newcomers that are very important. One word is atta. Atta means someone or something, like when we ask, where am I? Who am I?
So
My
atta
body,
can be
that
me.
is atta, when it is myself or the other or something, like when there is the idea it's a flower scene or a table in existence, not elements. That is atta. And the opposite is anatta, no self, no thing. So the Buddha taught that all dharmas are anicca, impermanent, dukkha, unsatisfactory, and anatta, not self. So Ajahn is asking about atta, self or something.
Are we now in the world of atta?
Are we in the world of atta?
Right now.
So from what I see, what I hear, and what I think,
Even the
we are
I.
Just even me, even you, we are all atta, and
That's
we
why
are
the
existing.
first question to study today is, what is there in the body?
The elements.
What does it mean?
The elements also.
Is it now?
Yes, it is in the present.
So if it's now, what element is it now?
The elements in all atta.
What is meant by element is the idea of I, something, element too.
I haven't yet understand about the understanding of our brain, so
Is understanding element?
I have no idea about that.
That's why we listen carefully to the enlightened one, not the scientists or any teachers about different subjects, but to understand what is there right now. If there's no understanding of this moment, we just talk about that we don't have any understanding at all, as it is. That's why learn to understand the virtues of the Buddha. Nobody can tell you, the scientists cannot talk about this moment, even the term element. What is the ultimate truth? or the ultimate meaning of it. What is element? Is it real? Is it there? Or it is just thought about?
I think the elements are created by conditions, and as far as I concern, the Buddha knows everything, but
So what is his word about element or anything?
so I think only the Buddha can answer that.
What did he say?
Nếu con chưa biết, con có thể trả lời. Con chưa biết để Achan giảng thêm cho con.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know.
What he understood, he explained to the rest of the world. That's what he did after his enlightenment. So he did convey the meaning of what he had understood. And we still have the record of what he said is still available today, so we can know what he said about elements.
Yes. All my understandings are limited, so pardon me if I answer anything rudely.
After his enlightenment, did he say any word or any truth?
And I said some words. I don't really understand your questions. Sorry.
Buddha kept quiet, silent. Or after his enlightenment, what did he do?
Can I ask what do you mean by he?
By
The Buddha?
The Buddha.
yes, the enlightened one, understanding what is there as it really is. Very, very subtle. Each word just about what is there right now. So when someone asks about what is there now, no answer. But Buddha said, what is there right now? Any moment. In
I
the
don't know.
past, in the future, just exactly the same like now.
It is not the same, but other than that, I don't know.
Did he say anything about seeing?
Did he say anything about seeing?
About
seeing.
Seeing. The Buddha, I think
Seeing is real, but it does not appear as it is. That's why it needs the one who developed great parami, conditions to realize the truth, the ultimate truth, never change at all. Is seeing real?
I think from
No,
the discussions now,
is seeing real?
yeah, from my knowledge of your discussion, seeing
You
is
ask
not real.
anyone whether seeing is real now. Does he see? Does she see? What's the answer? Yes, I see, right?
Seeing is made by conditions, so
They don't know anything, we don't know anything yet. Just consider what is real in life. From moment of birth, what is real?
I think that has to we do something with the definition of real.
Brain, what is it?
I don't know.
What can be directly known? What can be directly known at this moment?
The thing that can be directly known at this moment, I think, is our conversation with you and me.
What you take for brain, can it be touched?
Conversation can't be touched, I think.
Can it be touched?
Cannot be touched. They cannot
So
be
what
touched.
is brain?
Brain.
John's asking about brain. You mentioned before about brain.
Brain is a mysterious organ in our body that operates
Does it operate at moment when you touch it?
I think we can touch it, but
It's thinking, but what is the truth at moment of touching? Is there touching, and what is touched, and what is taken from brain or finger or desk or chair or what? But what is touched in truth?
touch is the act of
No, I don't ask about what is touching, but what is touched.
touch. Yeah, touch is the
You touch.
feeling that your arms or any part of your body is that feels it.
What is experienced
And
at the moment of touching the brain, if that was possible?
At the moment, I cannot touch my brain. I think you can only touch your brain when someone is dead.
What about now at the moment of touching the microphone? What is touched?
The microphone is touched by my
Are you
hand.
sure?
What is
My brain
experienced?
tells me that. I'm sure.
What is experienced at the moment, at the point of contact between your hand and the microphone?
The elements in the microphone, the texture of the microphone.
Not the microphone, but the hardness, the solidity or hardness of the mic, right?
Yes. So you told me that I can only feel its characteristic, not itself.
The characteristic of the solidity or hardness. It's not the characteristic of the microphone that's being experienced, is it? It's the what is sensed, experienced at the point of by the body at the point of contact is either the hardness, degree of hardness or temperature.
Just so all of them is the characteristic, but I think characteristic can represent itself. So
We're just talking about the elements that can actually be understood now. So hardness is an element that is touched for an instant only. Warmth is an element that can be touched. Microphone is an idea that is thought about. No microphone can be touched, just the hardness or the warmth. And what can be seen now? What is the element that can be seen now?
the elements I can see now, I think it's colors and
Colour, just visible object.
and 3D objects.
One at a time. Can flowers be seen now?
Yes.
Seen or thought about? What is the element that is seen now?
Its textures, its colors.
Can texture be seen?
I know the shapes can be seen.
Just the visible object, just the colour, and then instantly impressions about shapes, forms, ideas about flowers. So we're learning about what can actually be known, understood now. The different elements. Seeing is an element, what is seen is an element. Flowers, microphones are ideas that are thought about, they're not elements. What is heard now?
So I think I have a different definition about elements. My definition about elements is the really small things that builds our body, builds everything. And I think your elements may refer to, in my word, it's characteristics.
So each element we're talking about has a characteristic that can be known. So what is heard, sound, it has a characteristic. There can be understanding of sound, not voice, not words, not meanings, just sound. So the elements we're talking about are elements that can be understood in life in order to differentiate between the
conceptual world and the ultimate realities that can be understood now? Can a self be experienced now?
I think it itself can be experienced now by the five senses of us. If I walk to it and I touch it.
Can a self be seen?
Oh, I think I have heard this question earlier.
Because you said that just colour can be seen, colour or visible object. So can a self be seen? Can a self be heard? Can a self be smelt, tasted, touched, or just thought about?
So its elements or its characteristic can be tasted, can be smelled.
An element can be smelt, yes.
Yes.
The odour can be smelt. The taste, the salty taste, the sour taste can be tasted. But no self, no thing that can be seen or heard or smelt or tasted or touched. So we learn about these different elements, dhatus, that the Buddha taught in order to understand no one here, no one there, no thing. Because one can study all there is in the scientific textbooks about atoms and quarks and so on, but still have the idea of I and other people and the world of things and so on. So we're learning to understand the truth about the characteristics of elements that can be understood now.
Yes.
So it's like a different subject.
Is there seeing right now?
The seeing, I think, is in our consciousness, is in our thinking.
Is there seeing now?
Yes, in our
Is it
thinking.
an element?
It is an abstract thing.
The
so-
question is whether it is an element or not.
No, it is not an element.
We have to talk about it again. What is meant by element? Kun Sarah just said.
What made elements?
What is real? It has its own characteristic. For example, hardness is real because it's touched and it appears only at moment of touching. So seeing is a reality. It arises now. If it doesn't arise at all, there can never be seeing of that which is seen at all. So what is real? Can we say it's an element of that particular characteristic? Seeing cannot be hard. Seeing cannot be soft. But it arises just to see. No one can make it arise because now while we're talking, seeing is there all the time, unknown, that it's conditioned to arise. And it's rare. Can you stop seeing to arise or that which appears now not to appear at moment of talking right now?
So, may I ask you back, what is seeing in your opinion?
What is real is real. Is that right?
What is real is real.
Okay. So seeing is real. Right?
Yes. Okay.
At moment of seeing.
Yes.
Hardness is real at moment when it appears.
Touching.
Only at moment of touching.
Yes.
So what is real cannot be other thing. And the meaning of element is that which is there. It has its own characteristic. No one can change it. Hardness is touch. Softness is touch, right? Coolness, softness heat and cold can be touched. Are they real?
I think it can be changed. Like when you
At moment of touching, what is real?
I can feel the hardness,
Only
the touch.
which appears, but there must be that which experiences hardness. That's why the glass is hard, but the hardness of the glass does not appear when there's no touching. So there is still the idea of a glass, but in truth, no glass. Glass is not element, but that which is real. It has its own characteristic. Nobody can change it all. Is that right? So can we say what is real, it cannot be changed. It has to have that characteristic. So the dhatu, the characteristic of that cannot be changed. If element or dhatu is not real, how and where anyone find the dhatu? But since it's real, so we understand what is meant by the term or the word dhatu. It's real and it has its characteristic as a dhatu. Hardness is a dhatu.
May I ask what is dhatu?
Dhatu.
Dhatu, element.
Okay. Thank you.
D-H, long A-T-U, dhatu.
Thank you.
Do you pronounce it in Pali, Kun Alberto? How do you pronounce that word?
Doubt. Thank you.
It's just a Pali word. It's D-H-A-T-U.
DHT. DHAT.
A-T-U.
Long
thank you.
A, dhatu.
You understand it.
Like element, yeah.
In Thai, we just pronounce it dhatu, dhatu. But is it the way to
A little difficult to follow for.
the
Dhatu.
dhatu, right?
Yeah, as we've been talking, it's just another word for reality, another word for
Elements.
What is not lasting. Because you talk about the scientific how science interprets the reality, right?
Yes.
Like protons and neutrons.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit like the dhatu, but you have to think that the Buddha studied the elements many long time ago, and what is discovered is still valid today, and it changed the world, like for after the enlightenment of the Buddha, and even the science started to change, and picked up some idea that the Buddha explained, but they couldn't understand the whole truth, the truth that the Buddha had enlightened. But they picked up the word like element. They picked up like a kalapa or proton or neutron, and so we. So now we think that the science is explaining the reality, and it does, but it cannot explain it as completely, as truly as the Buddha explained it long time ago.
Yeah, thanks.
When he was the first man, the first person who knew about elements.
Yes, thanks, Alberto. I think there's more we can talk about elements. I understand there's another question from someone who won't be here this afternoon, so sorry for interrupting, but we'd like to move on to that one.
Yes, and then
buổi chiều mình có thể tiếp tục cái chủ đề này. Cảm ơn Bảo. Cảm ơn con.
Thank you.